Okay, so thinking about the differences then, looking again at the Greifenhagen essay, we're looking here, as Greifenhagen is pointing out, this highlighting the chastity of Mary, and specifically, right, the way in which there's a heightened sense of Mary's alarm because of her concern for sexual danger, right? Specifically, Greifenhagen says, Mary, fearing molestation, needs to warn him off. That's the angel, the messenger of God, by seeking refuge with God in an atmosphere charged with sexual danger, more explicit than the confusion or perplexity she experiences in the Lucan account. Mary displays proper propriety. Finally, one of the titles to be given to her son in the Qur'an is Son of Mary, right? Again, a huge difference. A name that stands out as unusual in a patriarchal context, right? It's not going down, right? He's not called Son of God. He's called specifically Son of Mary. So, his career then is also not portrayed as that of a king, although he is called Christ, which means Messiah. Rather, the Qur'an emphasizes his qualities of righteousness and honor and describes his career in terms of learning the Holy Scriptures and being sent as messenger to the children of Israel with miraculous powers of healing, animation of dead matter, and foreknowledge. Again, this is a depiction that is in accord with the prophetic paradigm applied by the Qur'an to all those that it names as prophet, right? Which would also include Abraham, Moses. So interestingly, some Muslim commentators have discussed whether Mary herself functions as a prophet, right? She gives birth, in fact, to the divine Logos, and this, right, would sort of solidify her status as potentially as a prophet. Let's see. So important thing then is that Greifenhagen, and Greifenhagen will do this again in an essay that we'll read later, right, wants to point out that the Qur'an then does not see Jesus' status as equal to, right, and this is similar to Luke, does not see Jesus' status as equal to God, but sees Jesus as needing God's permission to perform miracles, right, that Jesus is subordinate to God, still very much a human prophet, right, called Messiah figure, but a prophet that is not equal to God, right? In Islam, no human can be equal to God, right? God is so much holier, and this is the same also in Judaism, right? I mean, even the name of God within Judaism can't even be written down, right? It's too holy. It's so other and beyond human. So let's look specifically then at this paragraph. This is going to be important then in Greifenhagen's argument and the way that Greifenhagen is looking at the similarities and differences between the Bible and the Qur'an. In shifting the focus in this manner, the Qur'an gets behind the post-biblical doctrinal ideology of Christ's status as God. That means that it's actually after the Bible that Jesus is seen as equal to God, right? If you look at the Nicene Creed, again, written in 325 around CE, right? That's hundreds of years after Jesus' death, and that's because there's this trajectory, right? Jesus, after the Bible, post-biblical, is understood as being equal to God, but not, right, Greifenhagen is pointing out, actually in the biblical text itself, right? Jesus is not given that status as equal to God, but is still the Son of God, right? Luke, for instance, depicts Jesus mainly as subordinate to God, right, under God, joined to God by the Spirit, but not identical with God. Overall, the Qur'an attempts to steer a middle course between what it sees as excessive claims made about Jesus by Christians on the one hand, that Jesus is equal to God, and then on the other hand would be the rejection of Jesus and his significance by Jews, right? So the Qur'an is right there in the middle, right? Holding that middle of the road perspective. The Qur'an rejects the interpretation found in Jewish literature of the story of Jesus' birth from a virgin as a cover-up for fornication. So Jews would say this idea of that's perpetuated in and promulgated in Christianity, that Jesus was born of a virgin. Sorry. In Judaism, they're saying that's a cover-up for fornication. And the Qur'an does not agree with this in Judaism, but it does not go so far as specifically evangelical Christianity to claim then that Jesus is a deity. So that would be deifying Jesus. They wouldn't claim that Jesus is the same as God, even though Jesus clearly has preeminent status among the prophets in the Qur'an. Still very preeminent status, meaning still one of the most important, right, but not equal to God. Again, that would be then sacrilegious and would be blasphemy, really, to claim that any human could be God. The Qur'an's versions of the Annunciation of Mary, with her insistence on her chastity and virginity equally and her submission to God's will, as also her son's submission, can trigger a reading of Luke's account of the Annunciation uncoupled from later theological overlays, which helps us then to see Luke and what Luke is saying. We